All right, and welcome to the Davis Download. This week we're going to be talking about some political infighting on our political scene in America. So I'm going to turn it over to you guys.
The right is imploding. What's going on, fellas?
Everybody's dumb.
That's how Corey always starts. Everybody's dumb. This is stupid.
He's the most pessimistic person I know.
Whatever topic we pick.
Everybody's dumb. Not everything is completely anti-Semitic, and not everything is solely based out of, I don't know, I just feel
let's set the landscape here for the audience, right? So what's going on if you're not familiar and you're not, in the weeds of the political infighting that's taking place? We have the conservative right, like I said, that is actually imploding right now. So who are some of the big voices on the conservative right? Of course, one of the biggest voices, if not the biggest voice right now, is probably Ben Shapiro.
I would think so.
With that as well, you have mega voices, although not socially conservative, but I would still put her in the conservative category, as Megyn Kelly. She has a huge following. She used to star on Fox News in their primetime slot. I think after that, she moved to NBC? And then after that, she started her own podcast, and now she has a group of podcasts called the Megyn Kelly Podcast. It's subsidiaries as well. We have with this as well, Ben Shapiro picking fights not only with Megyn Kelly, he's picking fights with Steve Bannon, who played a decent role in Trump 1.0 in that administration. We have infighting as well with Tucker Carlson and Ben Shapiro. Tucker Carlson, of course, very close friends with Megyn Kelly. Megyn Kelly actually recommended that Tucker Carlson get the primetime spot after she left Fox News, so they are very close friends, very good allies. And they're kind of, in a way, I guess, kind of teaming up against Ben Shapiro. And then I saw the Heritage Foundation is now taking attacks from Ben Shapiro as well. The Heritage Foundation is a very conservative foundation that tries to push forth conservative ideas in society and culture. And so that's kind of the backdrop of all that's taking place. We have everybody throwing arrows at each other, people accusing each other of anti-Semitism. Of course, Ben Shapiro's take on this, him being a practicing Jew, he's very frustrated with the conservative response and support of Israel, and then he's frustrated as well with who the conservative media is platforming. So one of Ben Shapiro's main critiques is the fact that Tucker Carlson has platformed, who was this guy? Nick Fuentes, thank you. Nick Fuentes was platformed on Tucker Carlson's show. Tucker Carlson does long-form podcasts, about 2 hours long, very long. And don't worry, we won't keep you for 2 hours. But Tucker Carlson interviewed him for 2 hours, and Ben Shapiro was very frustrated that Tucker did not attack Fuentes harder. He felt like it was a softball interview, basically. And so this is the backdrop that we have here for the conservative infighting and, again, why the right is imploding. So off of that, what do we think?
Yeah, I would say, though, in terms of, Carson and Fuentes, yeah, whatever his name is. That guy, honestly, scum of the earth. Like, if you have the opinions that he has, these neo-Nazi views of people, the names that he has called J.D. Vance's wife, and all these things, this man is literally a tried and true white supremacist. Trash, scum of the earth. So if you are associating with scum of the earth, we can't be friends. So I understand that frustration from Ben. You can't say, oh, I'm just going to talk to him nicely and politely and hope to win him over. Well, he's already given his stance and where he's going to be. And the friend of my enemy is not my friend. So I think Ben coming out strong against him is perfectly fine. And to be honest, Tucker has been kind of dabbling in those kind of friend groups. So at what point does it become a pattern of who he is as opposed to this idea we want to have of him?
Yeah, to your point as well, not only with some of the fringe things that Tucker has said, also along with this, I read this morning, I think it was in Syria, that Tucker just purchased property in Syria, which is obviously a hostile regime to the United States. But anyways, Corey, what are your thoughts on this conservative implosion?
Again, everybody needs to relax. I thought we weren't the snowflake party, but yet we're all acting like everyone's acting like a bunch of snowflakes. So I thought we were not that party. Like, oh, not everything we say, everything we do is offensive. Blah 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 blah. Well, when the shoe's on the other foot, which is part of the reason why I don't really like politics, because everybody is the same thing. Mm-hmm. They're just under a different name. But I mean, so look, obviously that guy, not great views, not great beliefs, but in America there is freedom of speech and all that. So why, like, the guy had him on a podcast, okay? That doesn't mean we're supposed to hear differing views. And again, I'm not endorsing his views, but I mean, I don't know.
Yeah. I would think the difference though is so everybody's jockeying for what is going to be the spearhead of the conservative movement. Yeah. So right now, it's not just a conversation, but it's positioning people and ideas that are going to take over the next 4, 8, however many years in the future. So I don't think it's snowflakey. It's like, no, we are fighting for what the next movement is going to be. So it's not just a difference of an opinion. It's like this may very well be the heart of conservatism. And what do we want the heart to be?
So every interview is of dire consequence of who's going to take over?
No, not every interview. Again,
it was one interview.
The thing is, though, the platform that Tucker has is big. So, like, again, if we were to have some scum of the earth on this podcast, I mean, we wouldn't. But if we were, it wouldn't be the end of the world because, we don't got tens of millions of people listening yet. But it is different when the bigger your mic is, the more you are responsible for that. And I think Ben Shapiro was talking about that in his TPUSA speech. Like, hey, you have a position that is of great importance. Don't squander it with conspiracies and people that are just reckless. But yeah.
And to your point with that, I think that's kind of the logic of what Tucker was going for in this interview. I think that everybody is lobbying in a way for a base when it comes to the many voices that are out there. And I think Tucker, in a sense, he understands that his voice typically resonates with younger men. Mm-hmm. And you look at his audience, it's going to be more masculine. And he sees this individual, Fuentes, with many followers. And he says, why does this person have so many followers? Well, because he is so vile. He says such heinous things. And unfortunately, that appeals to the darker side of the male instincts, which is violence, which is wrath, which is profanity. And when you watch this guy, this Fuentes, on YouTube, all it is just profanity-laced rants at people, and they have no substance to them. This guy is not ideologically aligned with conservatives. Yeah. And Charlie Kirk even mentioned this before, that this guy, he's not a conservative. He's a phony conservative. He's a pseudo-conservative. He thinks he's a conservative. He uses the name of conservatism, but then he attacks conservatives. And so this is Ben Shapiro's frustration. My frustration with Ben, although I agree with him from a principled standpoint, yes, I would not be having conversations with people who are racists, who are clearly attacking good conservatives in authoritarian positions, right? In positions of authority, I should say, rather. Yeah. Like, we have J.D. Vance. J.D. Vance is on the team, right? And so this is my argument to Ben Shapiro, is that, Ben, I understand your frustrations, but let's handle these arguments and disputes behind closed doors. Now we've had this implode, and now on social media, again, we have people on the same team fighting. We're all on the same team when it comes to this conservative movement of standing for Judeo-Christian values in America, right? These are good people. I want them to be on the same team, but my frustration with Shapiro is, why air this out so everybody can see it? Why not handle this behind closed doors? Because Megyn Kelly's argument is, look, I've been in conversations and on the phone with Erica Kirk and Candace Owens behind closed doors to try to resolve some of these things. I'm friends with Tucker Carlson. I would like to handle these things privately. But I don't think it's the platform to do that. And again, I understand calling out AOC publicly, but I don't understand calling out an ally publicly.
Yeah. Well, what do you think, though, the idea of if a discretion happens publicly, it needs to be handled publicly. Something privately needs to be handled privately. So, like, how else do you stop the movement of, again, Tucker's shift kind of trying to get into this lane. How else do you stop it? If you say it in quiet and he says, yeah, I agree with you. Okay, then what? The opinion is already out there and people are formulating this idea based on what he said publicly, and not so much what happened behind closed doors. And I respect Megyn Kelly's conversations behind the closed doors. Those are important, and I think, those are important. But even like you guys as friends, if you said something to me in the back room and you're like, oh, I can't stand you, your feet smell, whatever, I would go to you privately and be like, man, that wasn't right. But if you got on a public platform and like, man, this guy is this guy's that, then I'm gonna have to respond publicly as well and say, whoa, what do you mean by that? How can, like, because I think you have to then get to the line of where are we trying to be in terms of conservatism. So what is our public stance? And again, obviously, some of that does start behind the scenes, but unless they're going to make a public proclamation and say, I was wrong about X, Y, and Z, and here's why, someone's got to do it.
Well, the whole issue here is, and all these behind closed doors and in private, I don't really know how much of it I believe or buy because, again, these people only make money and only have the success that they do by getting on a mic, so I don't really believe they're doing a ton of important stuff off the mic necessarily. But I mean, I don't know. Everyone just needs to tighten up a little bit. I mean, Mr. Facts over feelings sounds like he's a little bit in his feelings. It sounds like he's a little bit in his feelings, which I understand why he is, but you can't be Mr. Facts over feelings all the time and then get in your feelings and go and have multiple shows dedicated to, I'm going to tell you why this is the worst person ever lived and we're done. That seems like someone got in their feelings a little bit.
Facts and feelings are not always disjointed, though. Something can be factual and have emotional backing.
Yeah, but why do you have to get emotional about him having someone on an interview? It's a podcast.
It's extremely emotional for Ben Shapiro because of the family that he has involved. He had family involved in the indirectly in the Hamas attack, right? Yep. And so a lot of this infighting is over Israel. And this is what the Conservative Party has to decide. What is going to be, moving forward, what's going to be the position on Israel, right? What stance will it take? Traditionally, it has been that the Conservative Party has stood with Israel unwaveringly, right? And I would say we are wavering.
Yeah.
So then again, instead of everybody calling each other names, give the position, have the discussion. Why is it better to be pro-Israel and waveringly? Why would it be better to kind of be like, hey, you know what, it's time, let's move on, let's not have every decision based off Israel. Give the points instead of slinging mud and calling each other names. What are we doing?
I wish America and Americans followed facts over the way that they feel, but they don't. So the biggest emotional appeal is going to go to the broadest amount of people. So Again, Ben Shapiro laid out all the reasons why we should be unwavering with Israel, which I think there are beyond just Judeo-Christian values. I think just having a strategic ally where they are is immeasurable. It's important. But you tell that to people, and they're like, what does that matter to me in New York?
Yeah,
that's what you have to explain.
Yeah, I don't think that message really resonates.
So that's what I'm saying is it's not ever going to. Like you can
this is what politics is. Make the case.
Here's the thing.
Don't go and call him a evil conspiracy theorist.
But again,
whack job.
My point
Fuentes is an evil conspiracy theorist whack job.
Yeah, but 100%. I'm talking about that. Yeah, that's fine. I'm talking about Ben and Tucker.
Yes. Okay. I'm fair with that argument.
But here's what I'm saying though is, again, if you're making an appeal to the broad majority of people in America, you giving just the data doesn't work. Look at COVID and how that went out. People were wearing all type hazmat suits in the grocery store. Right?
I don't know if we can compare geopolitical politics to once in a time pandemic.
What I'm saying is this. People act based on emotions, their fears. You could have told them all the data. In fact, people were, right? People were saying, hey, look at Sweden and Denmark. Look at the approach they're taking, and it's working. And people here were like, nah, I'm not doing that. Why? Because the emotional appeal has more weight than facts, whether we like it or not. Now, to you and I, the logical is more important than the way that I feel. But Ben calling this guy out on his points, it does have factual points, but it also does have a bit of, okay, you can't just tear down an entire people. The way that you paint a people, in this case, the people of Israel, is going to affect the policy. Yeah. So you have to talk about what they're saying about the people as well as the principled argument for a thing.
Yeah, I'm fine with calling Nick Fuentes whatever you want to call him. I'm talking about, like, Ben, after that interview came out, dedicated an entire hour show to pretty much being like, so we went point by point with Nick, fine, whatever, okay? But then the second half of the show was why me and Tucker are no longer friends anymore. Yeah. Like, what are we doing? That's getting your feelings involved. That's being feelings. Talk about why Tucker was wrong for having him on and why he shouldn't. Don't just call him a mean guy and he's not my friend anymore. Now, Tucker's also a little bit of a whiny crybaby too whenever you call him out too. I don't really like his voice to begin with.
That laugh is diabolical.
Neither of their voices really are like great in terms of that, like their literal physical voice. They're both kind of like.
So to the emotional thing though, and I just keep riding this, but if you are going to associate yourself with the scum of the earth, and I'm going to keep saying that, people that hold vile opinions, we can no longer be friends. If you came out tomorrow and said, hey, I have an appointment with the Ku Klux Klan, we're not friends. Don't come over. Right? Here's an episode dedicated to why we will never be friends again. Because you're taking a position that is antithetical not to my broad view of life, but to my very being, my very existence. So I'm with him. I understand his argument to say, hey, politically this is where we need to be, but also here's why this affects me personally, but also even the entire state of Israel.
So we can't even talk to people who disagree with us then? Is that, I don't
think you should be giving platforms to people that are...
But that's the nature of... Like, so Tucker Carlson can just only have Republicans who agree with us on his show then?
No, you can have people that disagree with you on valid points, right? You can disagree with the death penalty. You can disagree with implementation of policy. But disagreeing on the very being of someone's existence, no, goodbye.
This is back to my earlier point, though, with Tucker. It's like, what was Tucker trying to do with these interviews? Like, a lot of people came after Tucker with sitting down
views.
Exactly. A lot of people came after Tucker with sitting down with Putin. They're like, you were too soft on Putin. But to Tucker's point through this whole process, it has been, how do you think I'm going to get in the room with Putin? I'm not going to get in the room with Putin by saying, hey, I get to ask any question I get to ask. I get to say whatever I want to say. That's not how you get in the room with that person. And I do kind of understand that in that sense. Now, I also agree with the principal element that, look, there are certain people, because of what they believe and what they value, that ends a relationship. Now, is a podcast a relationship? I guess, with freedom of speech, we could have that debate here. But I think it's pretty basic in the sense that I think Tucker was just trying to get more views.
Yeah, 100%.
I think he's trying to get to his
and
base.
It worked.
Exactly.
So
he went viral.
In terms of business, in terms of strategy, and that's what this ultimately is, and that's what we should not be taking our political advice from people who just get behind a mic. Like, this guy had a segment on Fox News, and a lot of people liked him, and he grew, okay, because he's kind of an interesting guy, but why are we taking our marching orders from these people?
So here's my point, and I keep going back to this. So yes, it was for the views, and I get that, but it's now going to set the tone of what conservatism is. So if I care about the movement, I have to say what the movement is not, because you just went on this platform and, kind of subliminally said, hey, this is the movement. I'm here with this guy. It's a tacit endorsement.
Here's another element of this. Okay, first of all, we consider some of the views of Tucker, right? Tucker, he's kind of famous. I kind of put him and Matt Walsh in a similar category. They kind of say some crazy things just to kind of get the clicks and the views and the response. They talk about aliens all the time, and it's just okay, I get it. They're really leaning into this thing, and this is their MO. This is appealing to their audience. But again, that's their clientele. They know their audience well. They know what they're doing. I don't think these guys are fools. I don't think they're dumb. I don't think even, in a sense, I don't even think they think they're ideological leaders who are pushing forward the conservative movement.
Oh, they absolutely do.
I don't think they
yes,
think
they do. They're not that humble.
The conservative movement.
Yes.
I don't think they want that mantle.
Oh, they do.
I think they think, how do I get more viewers?
Yeah.
How do I advance my career? How do I move forward? If you're sitting there spending 15, 20 minutes, Matt Walsh or Tucker Carlson, talking about aliens, you're trying to appeal to, young male foolishness and trying to get that base riled up.
I think Tucker's trying to become president. 100%.
I don't think he is.
Yes, I think because the heir apparent was most likely Charlie. Most conservatives agree with that guy was going to be president. It was a matter of when, not if.
I don't even think Charlie was going to run for president. And to your point with Charlie, this is the terrible thing about all this. Charlie Kirk was holding all this together and keeping everybody in the camp. Charlie Kirk was, yes, even keeping French people like Candace Owens in the camp of conservatism. But now that he's gone, now that he's been assassinated, all this has been gone anyways.
Yeah, so that's what I'm saying. So now all these people are trying to step in and fill that empty void, because now there's Charlie, again, unfortunately, no longer here. Trump has got 3 more years left. So there's going to be a giant opening. That's all these people are seeing an opportunity now. Like where there wasn't one 3 or 4 years ago, because it seemed like, it was going to be Trump and then DeSantis and Vance, and then eventually it was going to be Charlie. And so like the next 20 or so years of Republican leadership or party leadership was kind of already mapped out and accounted for. Now there's a giant opening.
Yeah.
And so now all of these people, so now Tucker is like, wait a minute, I might be able to mess around and actually get into the White House now. So now he's trying to go.
I don't think he wants to run for president, but I think that the growth of young males involved in the Republican Party in the last election, I think that's what they're appealing to.
Yeah, here's my issue though with, so if the appeal is to the clientele and the clientele is men, hopefully there isn't any this bridge between young men and outright extremist, vile things to be said.
And that's Ben's point.
So yeah, and that's what I'm saying is, if that is their goal to reach the clientele or whatever, you don't go for drinking water out the toilet bowl. You get water where water is good. You get water where water is fresh. So if his plan is to win over this next generation from this cesspool, that's a poison pill. The conservative movement is dead on arrival.
Well, I guess my point with that is that a lot of these young men, and this isn't necessarily their fault, it's just this is the state we're in as young men when we're 18, 19, 20 years old. It's just you tend to be naive to what's actually going on. Mm-hmm. And this is the argument I think that you're saying here, is that Ben's saying, hey, let's appeal to our greater values. Let's appeal to our mission, to our core as conservatives. And then I think Tucker and Matt Walsh and some of these other guys kind of appeal to the more basic elements of young manhood, which is these conspiracy theories and these crazy ideas that tend to be out there and way off the wall. Now here's just kind of I'll lean into what they do a little bit here. Who do we think would win in a fist fight? Who do we think would win in a fist fight? Tucker or Ben?
Ben.
I don't think any of those.
I mean, that's not no. Ben at least has lifted a weight before in his life. I think Tucker absolutely not. Tucker doesn't stand a chance. But
if Ben's hands are as quick as his speech, it's over.
You ever listen to Ben on like 1.5?
Normal speed.
That's normal speed, exactly. But I think so. Obviously, what the major Republican base now is the MAGA movement, right? Is the red hat, right? So someone has to win over that. Someone's got to take over the Trump coalition, right? All of his supporters. They're going to go somewhere, right? They're not going back to the left, right? So all of those guys, the guys who follow him across the country and rally and got all the gear and the 55 bumper MAGA stickers on the back of their pickup truck with the whatever flag is flying out the pickup truck, right? Someone is got to take that. Someone's going to try to take over that coalition. Now, again, not every single one, but I mean, a lot of people who listen to Nick Fuentes, I'm not endorsing his views, but a lot of people who listen to him vote for Trump and might have a MAGA hat. So you've got to get those. Someone's going to take those followers. Tucker said, all right, I'll do it. I'm not agreeing with his views.
No, I'm just going to pause you right here. A lot. You would say that a huge, sizable chunk is that? Because
20%? Of 15, 20.
I wouldn't say so. Here's
Nick Fuentes has a big following. They got to come from somewhere.
Here's the other thing, Corey. Nick Fuentes,
I'm not agreeing with him.
I'm not saying you are. Let me finish. Nick Fuentes on his show came out and said Trump was a traitor. He said Trump betrayed what he ran on of white supremacy, which Trump never ran on white supremacy. Okay, Trump never said anything like that. Okay, but Nick Fuentes came out and condemned Trump very harshly in great profanity, as he always does, because he doesn't have articulate points and he doesn't have any words besides profanity.
I'm not saying I agree. I'm not saying he's good, but again, who in the last election, all of his followers, all of his listeners, who'd they vote for? Who'd they identify with?
I bet you most Nick Fuentes. I bet you most people who watch Nick Fuentes don't even go to vote.
I would probably agree with that.
I mean, and that's a different.
Now,
who knows? But
is there some overlap? Maybe, but I don't think it's as big as
20%.
I don't think that is it.
I don't know.
Not a thing.
I mean, how many? I don't know. But if Nick Fuentes has 6 million followers on Twitter, you're telling me none of those 6 million voted?
The thing is,
if 1 million of them voted, that's a lot of people.
Our elections are pretty low in terms of like population, like how many people we have and how many people actually vote.
Yeah, in big general elections, it's rarely reaches 50%.
So but just the following, right? Those listeners, they're trying to take those listeners.
But that's my point. If we're winning over people that are the base of the base, we're messing up. I think Hegseth appeals to masculinity without going to the dungeons of earth, right?
Yeah.
You say, hey, being a guy is good.
Yes.
Having masculinity is good. Fight, punch someone, right? Not just randomly, but like be a man and be justice. Okay with it. You know, like it's fine with that. Like what he's been talking about in terms of our armed forces. You should be in shape. You should be at the top of your game. You should be able to be battle ready all the time. So I think that is the appeal you make to young people and say, hey, it's okay to be a young man and want to take on the drudges of this earth. It's okay to be a man and want to be a warrior. Like when you were a little kid, you wanted to be Batman. Why?
Yes.
Because he stood for justice.
Look, I agree with all that. I agree with all that, and that's the ideal.
And that's the travesty of the Charlie Kirk assassination, is that he was that good example.
Yep.
He was teaching what it means to have Judeo-Christian values as a male, what it means to stand up, have a family, support them, work hard, invest in your community. And that's, I think we all agree, that's kind of where the vacuum is opened up.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. Someone's trying to take it.
That's the argument that Ben Shapiro is making, is that who's going to fill this void in this vacuum?
Well, he's certainly trying himself.
So this is what I would say. I would rather be in the vein of his pursuit right now over those other people. Not so much Megyn Kelly. I understand what she's trying to do. She's trying to keep friendships. She's trying to keep relationships thriving. But Tucker, I don't see it. I don't see where he's going with what he's doing. The views, sure, you can say that. But as a principled person, you got to be above just simply the views. He's going to get millions of views anyway.
Yeah.
And just by who he is, just by his name.
That's kind of my point. These people are not principled. They're going to go wherever the money is. They're going to go wherever the power is. They're going to go wherever the influence is. So they might wake up in a month and flip back, and they might, have the Israel flag behind them. While they're like, these people are going to flip wherever it goes. That's kind of my point. That's kind of my point with all of this. Like, again, I don't agree with any of what that guy says. Obviously, again, he's scum of the earth, but if I'm looking at it from a business perspective, if I'm going to drag... That's the point of interviews, right? We've been talking about this before the show. The point of interviews is to get more audience in, right? So if you're going to drag... Whatever his audience is...
And I get that, but it's what audience do you want to win?
Why can't we change minds? Tucker doesn't care, and why can't we change minds? Isn't that the point of all of this?
No, because when you...
So then what's the point of even trying?
When you placate
so we
someone,
can never change minds.
So what I'm saying is, when you placate someone and you give softball answers, you're not changing anyone's mind. Only thing you're doing is changing the veneer that you are something different. Now you are one of us. That's the only thing that comes across.
I'm also going to argue you never change someone's mind the first instance. It's very rare your mind gets changed after the first instance, right? It probably takes time and trial and error and hearing and all of that. How often have you changed your mind off of hearing one thing?
I mean, if it's logical, I would say pretty quickly.
Okay. I don't know. You tend to like to get into arguments a lot, but I'm just saying, like, so just because, like, why not try to win these people over? So you get the audience, and then hopefully you build with good ideas.
I don't think you're getting a Nick Fuentes to convince them.
No, but you get his audience in. Now maybe they listen to Tucker. Now maybe Tucker has better guests on with better ideology. Again, I'm not saying every single person is going to flip, but can we flip a couple? We see how close these elections can be.
And you know what?
It's a podcast. It's 2 hours.
Here's the thing, though. These last few elections, what has flipped it hasn't been really these people on the fringes, right? What has it been? It's usually the women vote that has changed the game for Trump the first time and the second time. Women. The black vote has been the thing that has flipped it either time. You don't need Fuentes. You don't need the people that are thinking.
I'm not saying you need them. I'm not saying you need them.
Tucker, if Tucker's going for the money, there's a bigger audience somewhere else that you might sway better.
But
if his idea is I want the money and the sway, there's other pools to pull from.
Don't disagree, but again, we're talking about political-minded podcasts, right? So, like you're saying, to pull from these average people, those average people probably are not listening to political podcasts every day. They're probably listening to their sports podcast or their true crime podcast or whatever, right? The average person in the middle is probably not diving deep into politics. That's probably why they're in the middle. They just kind of look at the situation and be like, is the current leader and the current party, those guys are in charge. Is my life better or worse? If it's better, I'm going to keep voting. If it's not, I'm going the other side. Like that's typically how the middle tends to vote. So you're not going to get a bunch of views from them. So I understand why on these podcasts, you gotta, if you want the views and you want that, which is what these guys are doing, right? It's a livelihood, so you kind of have to, right? Mm-hmm. So you have to go to the fringe because the fringe is who watches and listens all the time and clicks and comments and all of that. So again, I'm not disagreeing with you, but I also get why he had that guy on his podcast.
So this is let me just play devil's advocate. Ben Shapiro is holding a different view. Would you say his viewing is more or less than Tucker Carlson?
What do you mean?
Like
more
the
or less?
amount of engagement that he gets on his videos. Is he more popular than Tucker or less?
I would say they're about the same. If there's a difference, it's not like major.
So I would venture to say that Ben Shapiro captivates a larger audience than Tucker does, especially since he has left Fox, right? Maybe on Fox he had a bigger viewing, but now it is not. Ben is holding a principled view and still getting more views. So leading into the fringe doesn't necessarily win you anything. Now, again, his points about our support, America's support for Israel, not that his point, right? He can hold that view, and that's something that can be debated, right? He should go to other people that say, hey, I don't think we should back Israel for these points, as long as those points are not inherent to their nature and who they are. If it's they take more money than we receive, we get more whatever, okay, I get that. But if it's simply a quality of their being, I can't be there.
I mean, again, I agree with you. I'm not trying to say more people should have Nick Fuentes on their podcast. That's not what I'm saying. Mm-hmm. I'm saying as in the terms of podcasting and all of that, I don't disagree, but I can understand why Tucker did it. And then Ben should, again, address why that was wrong and make it a conversation, not a he said, she said, like fighting, getting your feelings, I'm not friends with you anymore type deal. That's what I'm saying. I don't necessarily disagree with you.
Yeah, and I hear what you're saying. And again, maybe because I am just an argumentative person. At a certain point, you say, here is the line. If you cross the line, all bets are off. And I think on the flip side of that, back when they were all buddy, friend, Ben often talked about their friendship. He talked about how close they were, however close that was. So it only makes sense that now that this has happened, hey, that guy that I used to endorse that was a close friend, he's not anymore. So when you do put it out publicly about your friendship, then you got to put it out publicly that it's over.
So again, this is just one thing, but on Apple, the podcast, Tucker's last episode was 13th. Ben's had a couple out this week. He's not in the top. It's not in the top 50. Matter of fact, Megan and Candace are like. So in terms of audio, I know that's just one episode and it could be weird, but so essentially to say they're similar in terms of audience.
I would say some of their rise though has been in the last few weeks, right? Candace has been blowing up all over TikTok and everywhere. Why? Because of her conspiracies.
She's a whole
you start episode. Spouting conspiracies, of course you're going to get a bump in ratings.
But that's my point. That's what these people are doing. I'm not taking my thought and I'm not taking my marching steps from any of these guys. These are commentators. These are analysts. These are guys who are giving their opinion and their thoughts. So, again, you should probably listen to all sides, so that way you can make an informed, good opinion. I also don't think most people heard what Nick Fuentes said and be like, boom, yes, let's go. Like, I don't think that happened. I think the average person is like, he's talking crazy. This guy's got to go. This guy's odd. Are there maybe a couple people who got radicalized by the one interview and were like, okay, let's go. I'm all in on this, whatever, what do they call it, the Groyper movement or whatever? Yeah. I'm sure there was some, but I'm also sure the large majority of people were like, this guy's talking crazy. I want no part of it.
So here's the thing, though.
So isn't that a good thing?
Here's the thing. When you say, this guy's talking crazy, he's connected to the conservative movement through Tucker, then the movement is crazy.
That's a fair argument.
So does that mean one bad Christian makes Christianity crazy?
Sometimes
it does, yeah. You get a pastor that does something wild, and they say every pastor is stealing from people. Most pastors that I know are grinding, hustling, trying to do what they can, and they're making nothing. But so
you can't stop. The bad apples are going to come, though.
So here's the thing, though. People think that culture is downstream of politics. It's actually the other way around. The way that the culture moves, politics will move. Which is why back in 2008, you had the Democrat Party talking about, I don't know if, same-sex marriage is a thing that we would support. Culture shifted, politics shifted. So what I'm saying is what they're doing on these podcasts will determine the next leg of our politics. So what do we want to be the thing that pushes our politics? That's my point.
Yeah, I'm not disagreeing, but I also think we can, one episode, one interview is not, I'm pushing this guy. It's, let's have a conversation, let's hear what you have to say. Again, I'm guessing at least 75% of the people who listened said, I want no part of that guy. That guy sounds crazy. He's ridiculous.
I know one episode sounds insignificant, but one weak link breaks the chain, right? That's all it takes. One weak link.
I mean, I don't know. I mean, again, if he was doing like a weekly hit with them, then I completely agree with you 110%. But it's been one episode.
Okay, I'll grant you that. Okay.
If it happens, if it becomes a consistent thing, okay, that's different. But it's been one episode.
One episode that has become the topic of
because Ben politics. Made it the topic.
No, because
there's if Ben doesn't have this gigantic hissy fit about it, which again, I'm not even saying he's wrong for having the hissy fit, but if he doesn't have the hissy fit, it just kind of goes. And it's in the news cycle for a day or two, and then it's gone.
I don't know.
And then we're back to hearing these conspiracy theories about Egyptian planes flying around Utah Valley University and whatever with Trump and the Epstein list again and all this other stuff. Like that's what it goes. But the fact that they're going back and forth, every time one of them comments on it, it becomes in the news cycle. So Ben commenting on it and pointing to it, like this interview happened almost a month ago.
Okay.
I don't think Tucker's going and bringing it up a ton. Like, it was one interview. Boom, he's on to the next episode. Ben's the one who's dragging it out, which, again, I don't even disagree. But the fact that it is in the news is not necessarily Tucker's fault.
Again, I think it wouldn't even get a better person to interview. And this doesn't even have to be a blip on the topic.
But in terms of the business of this, you can't. It did its job.
I'll propose this to Tucker Carlson: stop bringing on Nick Fuentes and start bringing on the Davis Download.
There we go, Davis Download.
Bring some truth speakers to the Tucker Carlson podcast, and we'll make sure the viewers go up.
Amen. With that great insight, we're gonna end here for the Davis Download. Thank you for tuning in.
Merry Christmas.
Yes.